It started with a game.
If everyone would just bag the noise and play like we could do this.
Sonny, name one thing that's gotten better in the last 10 years.
Shall we play a game?
Video games.
All right, I acknowledge that.
Totally awesome video game!
Hey, welcome to Game Writing 101. Some extra credit. This is the teacher maybe going on his soapbox a little bit. Move this microphone closer. Yeah, I've had some thoughts on my mind, and I normally don't post like rants or soapbox stuff on social media. And then I thought, hey, I got a YouTube channel where I'm sort of pretending to be a teacher. Isn't that one of the perks of like being a teacher, is that you can just kind of pontificate? I mean, I wouldn't want to abuse that too much, but and it's not really a rant. It's maybe a little bit soapboxy, but again, if you're a teacher, you're supposed to lecture, right? It's one of the few places where lecturing is expected and possibly even welcome. The classroom environment, right? We're very professional here. I am experiencing a little bit of frustration with my peers in the game industry, with some of them. And I know it's all me. It's all in my head. It's really not them. But so bear with me here, and I'll explain why. We work in video games, right? We create virtual worlds, and I'm not someone who wants to place too much. I don't like to be too grandiose about what we do. It's entertainment. Now I don't want to diminish it either. I mean, entertainment can really move people and challenge them and prove to them, how certain social messages are important. It can do all those things, but we're not curing cancer. If someone's going to save the planet, it's going to be scientists, probably, if we ever let them. But we do create worlds, right? And people do consume a lot of video games and the stories there within. And a great many of my peers in the video game industry, including myself, are fans of and creators of science fiction. Okay? Science fiction, which you may or may not realize this, but science fiction is often regarded as the precursor to invention. Let me explain that a little bit. Jules Verne, what's the exact name of his book? Was it Rocket to the Moon? Something like that. I mean, I feel like I have that wrong. But I think it was the first use of the word rocket in that context. Right? This book was published long before anybody seriously thought about, launching a space shuttle to the moon. But it got people thinking and dreaming about it. Jules Verne. And this book was published in almost every language. And this book was a huge hit all over the world. And I got to think that a lot of maybe the scientists who did go on to work for NASA or other space programs, other countries, may have read that book when they were young. There's another example that I'll give you, and I should have meant to look this up before I started recording. But the people who invented radar, the scientists who invented the functioning, working radar, received, I want to say, a Nobel Prize. And they did something really interesting. They gave an enormous amount of credit to a science fiction author. It was a Russian author, I believe. And again, you can Google this. Maybe I'll put it in the description. And this Russian author had, I think in a short story, described radar, how it would work in a lot of detail in his, fiction writing. And sure enough, when the technology was available and these scientists invented the working radar, it worked very much like he described, like this author described. And they gave him credit for it. And of course, you can look at, Da Vinci's designs and all that stuff. You got to dream it before you can build it, right? So science fiction often gets credit for being this sort of precursor to invention. Now, I believe that applies to societies, worlds, etc. We do a lot of world building in video games. You will do a lot of world building as a narrative designer. So if we're imagining the future when we're working on science fiction, it's not just technology, right? It's the society that we live in. Let me give you some examples from fiction. Star Trek. It's mostly a utopia. People don't really suffer needlessly. It's not a lack of resources in most places, at least on Earth. And people aren't fighting wars with each other over invisible boundaries and things like that. And they're not fun. They're not. It's a utopia, and it's very appealing. Like, who wouldn't want to live in this world where you don't have to worry so much about basic stuff? You can just go out on a spaceship and go and explore, right? And bring peace to the people, to the aliens and stuff. It's this idealized version. I don't know how we would get to Star Trek, the world of Star Trek. I don't know how we would get there, but it's this idealized version of it, of society. Often, of course, science fiction takes place in a dystopia. In fact, I think most of the current science fiction that's out there. I'm really enjoying and watching The Silo on Apple TV right now. There's just a lot of science fiction out there, and it feels like most of it is set in a dystopia where things are pretty awful, and you're trying to get out of it. So science fiction is usually a utopia, where you're trying to preserve it, or a dystopia, a nightmare world even, or at least a place that really kind of sucks, and you're trying to get out of it. In The Silo, I haven't read the books, but I don't want to spoil anything. But you're trying to overcome and smash the dystopia and get onto something better. Dystopia is what I see most of our present day science fiction, 2023. There's probably another reason for that is that it's great conflict, right? Like, if you have a world where everything's kind of groovy all the time, it might be hard to establish conflict and drama. But Star Trek does it. You have to go out, right? You have to leave the Earth. Captain Kirk didn't spend much time on Earth. He was out there, doing his thing. And Picard was out there, settling conflicts. But I think we really need to play in some worlds where we are, maybe it shows us a brighter future. Some games where if they're set in the far future, they show us a better future, a better world than what we have now. Because I feel like in the real world, we're starting to nudge ever so slightly towards, and maybe this is overreaching, but more like Snow Crash, more like this corporate dystopia. I'm not a communist, I swear. I like money. I do. I just think that there's, it feels like we're working really hard to make people into robots and robots into people, for the sake of productivity. I'm 50 years old, so cut me some slack. This old man talking, but I think that there is my point, and there's my frustration, is that we can't stop the wheels of progress. But neither do we as, writers have to just clap like a seal every time some corporation comes out with something awful. And say great. Like sometimes, when I go online, and this is not just a critique of the video game industry at all, but sometimes you go online and it's, like, hey, we invented a neurotransmitter that makes live music, it makes you incredibly nauseous to hear live music. And if you hear it, you'll just be horribly sick and go home. And we were going to do that because we think if less people go to concerts, they'll be more productive and they'll go home in front of their computer and they'll work more. And everyone online is like, hey, yeah, all right, cool, the future, we invented something, great. Will it work on the laughter of children? Oh, I hope so. I hope that's next. You know what I mean? It's, sometimes I do feel like this old man, I do feel a bit reactionary, but then sometimes I think like, what the fuck? Can we not be critical? I mean, of that, we can't stop, I don't want to stop people from inventing what they want, but maybe as a society we should be guiding the wheels of progress a tiny bit to not make a world that just sucks. I have a good life. I shouldn't complain. I'm not complaining, but I'm just, looking at the world and complaining. But, yeah. So, and it's just funny, the same people who love science fiction and love, these worlds where if they either everything's great or everything sucks and they're trying to, escape dystopia and get to a better place. And it's like the same people who are, cheering, yay, Silicon Valley. There's a company, this is a real company that invented, basically like food tubes so you don't have to waste time eating and be more productive. That's a real company that exists right now. Who the hell doesn't like to eat? If you're fortunate enough to have some good food, it's just one of life's simple pleasures. There's a company, it's been in business for a while. It's made it their business to eliminate it. They could have done anything. It sounds grandiose. Maybe it just, I'm out of my depth, but, I feel like there's a lack of imagination. That's pretty important to address. So, if you're a young, aspiring narrative designer or a young writer, we need more utopias. Every science fiction show set in a horrible world. And it's cool. I like them. But maybe we if you're making games, give us another Star Trek or two to prove to us, show to us what the future could be. As a precursor to perhaps one day inventing it for ourselves. Somebody, I wish I could give them credit. Someone's not me. Somebody put out a great tweet that said, robots doing doing all the writing and painting while human beings do all the menial labor was not the future that I thought we'd have. It may not be correct, but it kind of feels like it. And it kind of feels like you got to have a lot of faith in Silicon Valley and the corporations of the world. You got to trust them more than I do to create a bright future for us all. I'm not anti-corporation, any of that stuff, but, come on. It's a bunch of people with diffused responsibility and a hyper-focus on their stock price. It's maybe not what we want guiding building the blueprint of our future. We got to put on we got to be human. CEOs, and we need everybody. Venture capitalists, scientists, CEOs, writers, being human, using our imagination to create a better world, a better future. And maybe you could inspire people by creating setting your games into a type of utopia that might inspire people to one day achieve it or at least move towards it. Something to think about. I feel better. It's a lot better than going on some rant on Twitter and being reminded of what a moron I am. I get enough of that in my daily life. I don't need to go looking for it. Thanks for indulging me. I hope you're getting on. I hope I've heard from a few people who found these videos useful, and I'm really grateful for it. There's my wife, Andrea. So drop me a line. Take great care of yourself, and I'll see you.